أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So in our lesson today, we shall be talking about strategic choice. That is choosing a strategy. Yesterday, in our lesson, we talked about the environmental scanning. And we said that as an organization or as a business, there are two types of environment that we are operating within the radius. So we have the internal environment and we have the external environment. And we need to analyze, we need to scan the two environments so that we can be able to do what? To choose a strategy. So these are some of our lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, we should be able to define, okay? You should be in a position to define strategic choice and explain its importance in business decision making, identify and analyze factors influencing strategic choice, including internal and external elements, differentiate between the levels of strategy and their roles in an organization, explain corporate strategy, its purpose, and how it guides overall business direction, describe the business level strategy, the functional level strategy, and we also have the operational strategy. Then lastly, we have what? The global strategy. This business implementation is not part of our lesson. Now, as we are starting our lesson, we need to remind ourselves about this framework. Remember yesterday, I explained in detail about this framework. But again today, I'll just be passing quickly through this framework because it is only through this framework that you can understand what the lesson is all about. So number one, in our first two lessons, we discussed about what? The missions and objectives and the vision and the values. So before you do anything as an organization, you always have to ensure that your mission, your vision, values, objectives are very clear. Now, when you finish doing that, you go to the next step. This is what you were doing yesterday. So yesterday we talked about the external analysis and the internal analysis. Now, what is the importance of these two analyses? The importance of these two analyses is that it provides us with information that can help us to choose the strategy that we need. And this is what is meant by strategic choice. So, khalas, everything is very clear. We have the ma'lumat. Now we need to choose the method. We need to choose our strategy, the strategy that is going to help us as an organization to do what? To achieve our objectives. Now, so what is, number one, what is the meaning of strategic choice? What do we mean by strategic choice? So strategic choice refers to the deliberate selection of a course of action from available alternatives to achieve organizational goals. So when you are talking about strategic choice, هناك الخيارات كثيرة. ومن هذه الخيارات we need to choose البديل الأفضل, because there are different ways, there are different strategies that can help us as an organization, but we want to choose the one that is efficient and the one that is effective. Okay, so it involves evaluating options and committing to a specific strategy that aligns with the company's vision, resources, and competitive environment. So it is all about at-taqim al-khiyarat. You have option A, strategy B, strategy C, and you also have strategy D. So what are you basically doing? you are basically evaluating so that you choose the best from those strategies. Now, again, strategic choice refers to the process of selecting among various strategic alternatives to achieve specific to achieve
qorigan gaariga ka soo qaadanaya xagee xaggan mis haye
so strategic choice refers to the process of selecting among various strategic alternatives to achieve specific organizational goals and objectives. So it involves evaluating different parts. Different parts means what? Khiyarat, different ways. And we choose the most appropriate one based on the organizational strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat, as we already covered yesterday about the SWOT analysis. So that is the definition of strategic choice. Now, what are the factors? Factors influencing strategic choice. And we are using the example of the Habshil Bank here. So before you choose a strategy, what are the elements? What are the factors that are going to influence your decision? So number one, we have environmental factors. These are the external conditions such as economic stability. You have to know, is the economy doing well? The financial sector regulation, you need to know the law of the country and political climate. So these factors, they influence what? They influence the strategic decision. Number two, competitive environment. The Abshil needs to know how many banks are there in Somali, Mathalan. How many local and international banks that are there in Somali? Are they giving mobile money services and fintech firms? So this one will affect the Habshil when they are making their decision, So number three, we have organizational resources and capabilities. Before I choose any strategy, I need to know my strength. I need to know my resources. Are these strategies aligned to my resources and my capabilities? Then stakeholder expectation. When you're talking about the stakeholder expectation, these are your customers, your shareholders, the regulators, and employees. What are their expectations? Because remember, the organization is always there to satisfy the needs of the customers. So if your strategy is not going to help you to satisfy the need of your customers, choose another strategy. Number five, risk assessment. So this is known as idaratul makhatir. So we need to evaluate potential risk associated with different strategy, such as security threats, economic instability. So for each and every strategy that we are choosing, it has its tahadiyat, it has its advantage, it has its disadvantages. So we need to do what? We need to have a risk matrix. We need to evaluate the risk that is associated with each and every strategy. Then number six, government regulations and policy. Before I select my strategy, I need to know what are the policies what are the rules and regulations from the country? What are the tax policies, mathalan? What are the corporate governance requirements from the government? Then organizational culture and leadership. This is very important. The vision and leadership philosophy also impact decision making. Now, we also have the market demand and customer preferences. So there is also at Talab, the market demand, and the customer preferences. So the changing customer behavior and financial needs influence strategic choice. So every day we have many customers, and their needs always change every day. So before I select a strategy, I need to study, to do a marketing research, to know the preferences of my customers. Then globalization and expansion opportunities. What are the opportunities for globalization? So when you're talking about globalization, you're talking about Aulama. Like, for example, the Habshil is operating its bank in Somali, but it has banks in Kenya. It has bank in China. It has bank in Dubai. This is what is known as, so there is the element of globalization. That is, we have the multinational companies and multinational organization. Now, another thing you have to know before you choose your strategy is the organizational chart. Why is this organizational chart important? Because remember, yesterday we also talked about the organizational structure and chart. But remember, when you are choosing any strategy, there is what is known as stakeholder inclusion. So you need to, before you choose any strategy, you need to ask, you need to meet, you need to engage all the stakeholders. Especially, you need to listen to your customer. So we normally have two types of organizational chart. Okay, so we normally have the traditional organizational chart and the modern customer-oriented organizational chart. So in strategic management, we prefer the second option, the modern customer-oriented. That is, we listen to our customers, al-mustahlikin. We listen to them. The customer is the boss. The organization is there because of this customer. So we need to listen to them more. We listen to the customers, then we make the decision. It is the opposite of the traditional organizational chart, where the top management decides without even asking the customers. They decide what is going to happen. So this shape has now changed. The pyramid has changed. The customer, before, the customer used to be down there, but nowadays the customer is the boss. We always need to do what? To design questionnaires. We always need to respond to their needs and complaints. If you don't listen to your customers, then your business is going to do what? Your business is going to die. So this is what I was basically saying. So the approach that we need to use is the top-down approach. Okay? Not top, the bottom up. So we listen to the customers. They are at the bottom. So the bottom up. So we start from the bottom. We ask the employees, we ask the customers for their input. We don't use the top-down approach in strategic management. We use the bottom up. We start from the bottom. We start from our employees. We start from our customers. We start from our suppliers. We ask them, they give us their input. Now, on to the next part of our lesson, which is very important. Now, in any organization, there are 4 levels of strategies that we can choose as an organization. Sometimes in some books, there are 3 levels. In some books, there are 4 levels. In some books, there are 5. So the 5th one is the is the global strategy. So down here, we have the global strategy. So it depends with the word. It depends with the book you are reading, basically. So we normally have the corporate strategy, business strategy, the functional, and the operational. Now, let us start with the first one. The first one is the one that is up there. It is known as the corporate strategy. So what is the meaning of corporate strategy? So corporate strategy refers to the overarching plan and direction an organization adopts to achieve its long-term goals and sustain a competitive advantage. Full stop. So the corporate strategy here, this is the strategy that an organization is going to choose, and this strategy will help the organization to achieve its vision, to achieve its long-term goal. So the corporate strategy, sometimes it is all about where do we want to see ourselves 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So that is the corporate strategy. So corporate strategy refers to the overall plan, al-khutbatu al-am, that guides an organization, scope, direction, and resource allocation to achieve long-term goals. It answers the question, what businesses should we be in? So the corporate strategy, it answers this question. What kind of business should we do? Should we go to the school, the educational sector? Should we go to the textile sector? Should we go to the telecommunication sector? So what business should we be in? That is the question that is answered, you know, and it involves decision about, number one, diversification, entering new market and products. Mathalan, as an organization, we are producing only mobile phones. So diversification means, can we also start another business? So diversification basically means investing in many types of business, or investing in many types of market, investing in many types of product. So you can have mobile phones, you can have laptops, ila ghairi dhalik. Or diversification can also mean not putting your eggs in one basket. So sometimes you find that you are doing a business, you are doing the business in hotel only. So if something happens to the hotel industry, haba and manthura, everything, you are going back to zero. But you find some people, they are very good in doing business. You find, I have a hotel, I have a school, I have a business center, I also invest in transportation, I also have some shares in this bank and in this company. So if one sector is not doing well, still the other sectors are doing well. So that is the idea of diversification. You don't put your eggs in one basket, because if anything happens, you are going to lose everything. Number two, another corporate strategy is acquisition and mergers, that is buying competitors. So when we are talking about acquisition, sometimes, as for example, in Somali, you have the Hormud, you have the Telesom, you have the Somtel. So sometimes acquisition means Somtel sometimes Somtel decides to buy Hormud because Somtel is having a lot of money. So that is called acquisition. You are buying another company in full. Or Alpha University, you know, decides to acquire Mogadishu University. So Mogadishu is going to change the brand and everything. Or mergers. Sometimes Alpha and Mogadishu University, they can merge together. They can do business together. And this is many people, like what is happening, like in Somaliland, for example, there was a merger between the two electricity company. We have the Telesom and the Alog. So they merged together. So now you have, it is called Audal electricity or what, I don't know. That is the idea of what? That is the idea of merger. Sometimes you can merge two companies together, bring them together. Or number three, strategic alliances. Strategic alliances is what Alpha University and Lincoln University they are doing. That is called strategic alliance. So Lincoln University cannot come to Boroma. So they just sign an MOU. Okay, you just give the classes here in Somali, and the certificates will come from Lincoln. So they make some agreements. They sign some MOUs. So this is called a strategic alliance. When two businesses, they come together so that they can work. Now, sometimes there is resource prioritization. Here we have invest and divest. In an exam, you can be asked, what is the difference between invest and divest? Invest means you continue putting more money. Divest means, here, Jama, my business is not doing well. So divest means I remove my money from business B and I put it what? I put it in another business A, which is doing well. Invest mean business A, it is doing well. So I add more money, I add more money, I add more money. Why? Because it is growing. The sales are increasing. The profits are increasing, right? But divest, this business is not doing well. Now I'm going to do what? I'm going to divert. So these are the corporate words. So these are the corporate strategies. There are very many, but these are the main. There are around 15 or more than 20 corporate strategies. Now, so what is the importance of the corporate strategy? So number one, it provides a clear direction and purpose for the company. Number two, resource allocation. We know how we are going or where we are going to put our money. Number three, competitive advantage. It gives you the miza tanafusia. You can imagine two companies, like what happened in electricity. So those two companies, they came together. That is the Alog and what? Alog and the Telesom, they came together. So they are monopolizing. So you only have, like in Boroma, you only have like one what? You only have like one electricity company. But before they were two. So people had option, but now they are monopolizing everything. Then also risk management. Risk management through diversification. So you don't put your eggs in one basket. One egg is north, another one is south. You invest in Somali, you have business in Kenya, you have business in Nigeria, you have another business in Dubai. So you are just doing well. If the business in Kenya is not doing well, in Uganda, you have the branch, you continue. If in Uganda is not doing well, you have. So this is the idea of risk management. You invest in many areas if you have enough capital and resources. Then synergy. Synergy means what? Synergy means you are bringing your resources together. You can imagine if three company A, B, and C, they become one company. All the resources, you can imagine the synergy. They are going to work together. They are going to bring all their capital, their human resource. So that is what is going to happen. Then adaptation to change. You can easily adapt to the environment. Then stakeholder engagement, engaging the stakeholders when you are planning. The long-term stability. If you have a good corporate strategy, then you will operate for many years. Now, So what are the types of corporate strategies? So sometimes under the corporate strategies, I told you we have many, So all this, you can imagine, all these are corporate level strategies. All this. So we have the internal growth strategy, external growth strategy, We also have the turnaround strategy. Then we also have the cooperative strategy. So all of these are strategies that you can research more during your free time. An organization can just decide to choose any one of these, Now we are through. We are through with the corporate level up here. Now we are going down. So we are going to business strategy. We are through with up. So now, what is business level strategy, which is in the middle? So business level strategy refer to the approaches and tactics that an organization uses to compete. The keyword is tanafus, to compete, munafasa, to compete successfully in a particular market or industry. Full stop. So business level strategy, this is the approach and the tactics you choose to compete. For example, if it is the education industry, Alpha University is competing with Hergesa University, it is competing with Boro University, it is competing with Golis, ila ghairi dhalik. So Alpha University has to come with a strategy that will help them to compete with the other universities. That is the meaning of business. Now you are doing business. You are in a hotel. You have hotel A, B, C, and D. I have to choose a strategy that will enable me to compete with restaurant B, restaurant C, restaurant D. If I don't compete with them, if I don't have a good strategy, the customers will not come to my hotel. I am going to lose customers. So I have to give discount as a strategy. I have to cook good food. I have to bring chefs from Kenya or another country from Egypt so that people can come to my hotel. So this is a strategy. So sometimes you think that, well, this restaurant, it is using a lot of money to bring Egyptians to cook food. No, this is a strategy. Sometimes people, when they see the Egyptians, the Yemenis, they know, wow, this hotel is first class. But if they see the locals in the hotel, and even if you see the foreigners in the hotel, the prices of the food. If you go to Hotel B, this sandwich, because it is from a foreigner is cooking and preparing, they'll sell it for $5. The same sandwich in a local hotel, it will be $2. So what is making the difference? What is making the difference? The difference is the human resource. Some universities, they have foreign lecturers. Why are you bringing lecturers from other countries to be in your university? That is a strategy. So when people, Alpha University, they have lecturers from Tanzania, Kenya, which country? So people will associate that with quality. So they will want to come to the university so that they get the quality. So that is the meaning of business level strategy. Now, business level strategies focus on how a firm competes. This is the key word, competition. Competes in a specific market or industry. So it answers the question, how will we win in this market? How is Alpha going to win compared to the other universities? How will we create value for our customers? How is Alpha University going to create value so that students can pay? Every semester they can pay, because students, if they don't get the value, the students are not going to pay the fee. So how is Alpha going to create the value? Number one, by bringing teachers from different countries. Number two, by what? By maybe having an alliance with Lincoln University. Number three, number four, number five. So there are a lot of approaches that Alpha can use to win in the market. Now, these are the key aspects of business level strategy. But the most important thing are the types of business level strategy. I need you to understand this. This is very important. So, if you want to compete in any market, you can decide to choose one of these strategies as a business strategy. Number one is what? Cost leadership. Number two, differentiation. Number three, focus strategy. Focus is mushakal. So focus is cost plus differentiation. So if you have a business, you can decide to choose one of these. So بالاختصار, number one, cost leadership. Cost leadership means you are offering your services or products at the lowest possible cost to attract price-sensitive customers. There are some customers who, when they go to the market, they only ask for the price, not quality. Hey, how much is this? How much? They don't ask about the quality. So how much is the food? How much? So as a business, I can decide. I compare the prices of the other universities. Mogadishu, what is the tuition fee? Hormuz University, okay. Jamhuriya, what is the cost? Then as Alpha University, I decide I'm going to lower my price. My tuition fee is going to be low, so that so that I can get many students. But if my price is high, my tuition fee is high, my school fee is high, I will not get enough students. So this is a strategy that many companies, when they start with low price. So when you get good customers, so that is a strategy. So any business, when you're starting any business, start with low price. Why? Because you need customers. You cannot start with high price, no. Because you are still miskin. You need customers, right? Now, so I think it's very clear. Number one, cost, price. Number two, differentiation. The opposite of cost is al-jawda, quality, unique. So there are some people, some customers, they just want quality. They don't care about the money. So for example, iPhone, they are focusing with quality. They are not focusing with price. They are Apple, for example, Apple laptops. They are giving something that is unique. So somebody can pay $900, $500 for iPhone without bargaining. How much is this iPhone? $300. Bismillah, take the money. Why? Because there is something unique. There is something special in iPhone. So when you are starting your business, you also have to have something that is special. And that's something special. For example, Alpha University with Lincoln, that is something special. So people will come to Alpha University. Why? Because the certificate is from Lincoln University. So that is something Alpha University is using. This is called differentiation. So differentiation means a tamyiz. What makes me different from the others? Why will they come to me and they will leave the other places? So we need to give something that is something that is of high quality. Okay. Then number three is a mushakal. We give low price, but also we focus with the quality. So we don't want to give just, so here we are targeting both customers, those who are sensitive to the price and those who are sensitive to the what? Those who are sensitive to the quality. So I'm balancing both the needs of those who are focusing with quantity, the price, and those who are focusing with quality. So that is the strategy. So this is the business level strategy. So if you are doing a business, you can think about any of this. Okay? So this is what, so basically this is what they're explaining. You know, we have the cost, we have the differentiation, you know, we have the differentiation, those three only: cost, differentiation, and amushakal. So sometimes some people are always stuck in the middle. And this is a problem, by the way. It's a very big problem, stucking in the middle. So sometimes some businesses, they give low price. Sometimes they are confused. They are confused. They don't know. They don't know what they're doing. So as a business, you have to decide if it is cost. If it is differentiation. If it is mushakal, let it be mushakal. Blend it together. But don't try to do these 4 or 3 things, because as an organization, we don't have enough money. You don't have enough money to apply or to implement this. You don't have enough money to implement all of this. But some companies like Apple, iPhone, there are some companies, they have Tesla, they have a lot of capital, they have a lot of money. So they can actually do all of this because they have a lot of networking. But you, when you're starting your business, you don't have, of course, when you're starting your business, you don't have enough. So it should be tadrijian, step by step, step by step, step by step. Okay. Now, because of time, we will stop here today. Then in our next lesson, we will start in the functional level strategy. So today we will not have what? We will not have 2 lessons. We'll only have this 1 lesson. So in our next lesson next week, we will start in the functional level strategy, inshallah. Okay. So now I will send the attendance to your group. I need you to take the attendance, then we finish the lesson. The lesson will finish any time from now. So I'm going to share with you the attendance now. Take the attendance. Some students yesterday, did not take the attendance and they were complaining. After 2 minutes, I'm going to close the link. Today, there are only 6 students. So I need these 6 students to take the attendance quickly. I close the link. So I think that's all. We'll meet next week, inshallah. Thank you.